Hey everybody, so a lot of people have been very concerned about Halo Infinite, especially with all the new details that have come out. A lot of people are like, wow, no co-op campaign, no Forge, no XP progression, you can only progress through challenges. There's been a lot of concerning things that have come out, and even on top of that, with the tech preview, there were a lot of concerns and a lot of things that people wanted to have changed. So 343 has done a kind of feedback blog post, and in that they've gone through all the different criticisms we had of the game. A good example of that is the medals. They've actually gone back and redesigned the medals. They weren't as very aesthetically pleasing, especially the higher multi-kills. Kilimanjaro to Killionaire was kind of iffy, and they still haven't shown us them, so I'm very curious to see them. And they're still doing the tiers of different medals are worth different things. And in the new system, an overkill was the same value as a Killionaire. So I'm not saying the medals are fixed completely yet, but they have been fixed a little bit. So I'll throw the little picture up on screen now of what they've mocked up. I really wanted to make a video about this because the medals themselves are such a step in the right direction. I like the boldness and the outlines. I'm not going to judge them completely until I see the multi-kills, because they're what I had the major issue with. Again, the Kilimanjaro to the Killionaire medal did not look very good, so I'm going to wait and see before I make a judgment. Next up, we have the whole no XP progression or real XP progression system. There's only going to be the battle pass. Still very excited for the game, but it's hard to be super duper excited when someone who goes for like a lot of experience, like with MCC, I'm like 450 million, and if there isn't any sort of progression system that I guess is visual, when I'm not going for clips, I'm probably not going to play the game as much, to be truthfully honest. Like, I'd rather go do other stuff. What's the point in grinding if there's nothing that I can show for it? 343 has said there's going to be a challenge, a permanent challenge, that for games completed, it'll keep resetting. It'll keep going back. Games completed, games completed, games completed. You can keep leveling up. But what happens when I complete the battle pass? I'm probably going to get through the battle pass very, very quickly. But if I complete the battle pass in, like, say, 10 days, what am I going to do then? There's no sort of progression for me past that or beyond that. From what I can understand, there's going to be no XP progression on launch. I hate being negative about things, but after 5 or 6 years, like, probably been in development for, say, 4 of that, no XP progression is kind of like a bare minimum sort of thing. What do you expect when the game comes out? Good working multiplayer, a good working campaign, a theater mode, a forge mode, and every feature that I guess was in a 2007 game, and then add on to that with new and exciting features. And Hidden Xperia actually summed it up really well. He brought it back to Halo 5, and he said, well, they were hyping up Forge, the release of Forge, when that's already an expected feature in the game. Another thing they didn't really cover was the physics. And as you guys know, I love messing with the physics on a Halo title. It's kind of my thing, flying across the map, messing with the physics, doing unique and cool things. It's kind of my go-to thing of what I personally love about Halo. The gravity hammer itself didn't have the oomph that I would like. And there was a post on Twitter yesterday, this guy called Hidden Reach basically said that there's no grenade jumping. So Halo CE, 2, 3, every game, you could throw a grenade, jump, and it would launch a bit into the sky. Halo Infinite doesn't have that. I guess it kind of stems that Halo Infinite, at the moment, doesn't have the seamless physics that I felt like Halo 3 has. Halo 3 to this day probably has the best physics in a Halo title in terms of interacting with the sandbox and doing really cool stuff to launch across the map. So I hope in the next outcomes, 343 at least addresses this and say what they're doing to make the physics in the game better. I just want the game to be fun. I just want to be able to drive around in a Warthog, drive around in a Mongoose, get off, gravity hammer it, send it flying across the map, get random objects, gravity hammer them, send them flying across the map, maybe even grapple onto them and then fly across the map. I feel like it's really going to hinder the uniqueness of the game if it doesn't have those things in it. And Halo 5 actually had a lot of those things. If you rammed into a teammate with a ghost, you'd actually go flying up into the map, and it was amazing. I'll link a clip as I'm talking about this. But again, that was considered an exploit, and it got patched out. All the maps got given invisible roofs, instead of the 10-second barriers that I thought they should have had. So then it lost that level of uniqueness that I actually really enjoyed playing about it. But when I play Halo 3 nowadays, I see all these little things that Bungie has done, and I noticed them. Specifically putting a Mongoose next to a brute shot. Kind of egging someone on, saying, hey, get on the Mongoose, hey, get a brute shot, shoot it at the floor, or do something like that, you know what I mean? Give a little hint in the right direction for players who are just picking it up, saying, hey, you know, if you put those two together, could be a fun time. Next up, 343 spoke about the audio. The feedback from a lot of guns was it didn't sound crisp, it didn't sound as satisfying as the community would like, so they're going back to the drawing board And they've got a couple ideas of what they've already done, but they're enhancing, for example, Gravity Hammer sound, the needler sound more crystallized and glassy, because the needler is all sharp shards that are basically, you put it into the gun, and as you reload the needle, it breaks it all into pieces, and then it comes out with the little needles that you see on the weapon. They talk about the battle pass, and I'm going to read it word for word here, and I'll put it up on screen. From a player feedback perspective, we heard the request to earn XP per match outside of challenges, as well as to have XP boost timers only count down while in a match. I don't feel like that's unreasonable. I feel like that is completely expected of a game coming out in 2021. 343 basically says, in rebuttal to that one of the items that wasn't fully there in the tech preview was the daily challenge model that provides challenges along the lines of play X number of games that will repeat indefinitely throughout the day. As for XP boost timers counting down while out of the match, we will be looking at improving this experience post-launch. Finally, they say progression is an area that we will continue to improve and grow over time, and we'll have even more to share about this later this month. So I'm hoping that because of the backlash we've given them about no XP progression, they're going to be like, oh shit, we should probably add XP progression. Because I remember when Unishek answered a tweet from Ubernick and basically it said, no, there's no XP progression. The only way you can progress is through the battle pass. A lot of people were very, very upset about it. Me included, I was so disappointed. A lot of people felt when this was announced that they were just milking Halo Infinite for money. It's pretty much just, hey, you can buy your way to unlock everything if you really want to. And we all get that it's a free-to-play game, and we get it's going to have monetization and microtransactions. That's cool. And it's still fantastic that the Battle Pass doesn't go away, so you always have your progress. But I want some visual indication to prove that I have no life and I play the game 24/7. Next up, we have the combat sensor, in brackets radar. Now, I don't know why they didn't just call it the motion sensor. There really seems to be this trend with Halo Infinite to change stuff for the sake of changing it. I'm a very strong believer, and if it's not broken, you don't change it. A lot of things on this game that they've changed for the sake of changing it. The multi-kills, the Kilimanjaro, the Killing Air. No one was gonna bat an eye if it was kept as the stars that it's been for every single Halo title since Halo 2. In any case, they have changed the combat sensor to feel more like the motion tracker of old. All movement is shown now on the motion sensor, like every other Halo title, besides crouching, which is just standard. In terms of the AI, I personally felt like the AI spoke way too often, and as someone who plays the game a lot, I understand they'd be very helpful for new players to kind of give them a situational awareness of what's going on. I personally don't need that, so I'd like the ability to turn it off, and it was really cool to see that the feedback actually says desire to control how much of the personal AIs talk, in brackets including turning them off. Unfortunately, it says in the feedback, players expressed an interest in controlling how often their personal AI spoke and what kind of information they spoke about. This isn't something we'd be able to do for launch, but I guess that means that I'm going to be hearing, you've picked up a sniper rifle, nice headshot. Every second headshot I get is nice headshot, double kill, nice headshot. Personally don't want to hear nice headshot every 2 or 3 headshots. That's just me. If you guys want to hear that, that's completely fine, but I feel like I should at least be able to turn it off. Every time I pick up a sniper, it says, I see headshots in your future. And I'm just like, man, I don't care. I just want to pick up the weapon and shoot people. Next up, we have aiming, sandbox, friend or foe, / player outlines. The feedback we gave was the overshield was too hard to tell when they actually do have an overshield, and the desire to have an opponent's gamer tag above their head. Now, this is a very big thing for me. The sensor you fire out as an equipment actually brings up their name, so I couldn't understand why there wasn't just a red name above their head. 343 has basically said that now, with the changes they've made, you will always be able to know if you're fighting someone with overshields, full shields, weakened shields, or broken shields. It's very, very important that we can tell the difference. So the next fight we'll be able to see these changes, which is awesome. In terms of aiming, especially with the sniper, they said that a lot of these issues were due to the low frame rates, and the performance will be really, really good on launch. So this will mitigate a lot of the issues. But on top of that, they're making the sniper and the skewer slightly easier to use. They've increased the default sensitivities for both mouse and keyboard and controller players. But as a big positive, the community almost universally said that the overall weapon balance between the guns was really good. And I agree, the Sandbox really worked together really well, especially with the equipment, worked out pretty awesome actually. There's a couple things I'd like to see buffed, like the plasma pistol. The overcharge is nothing compared to the plasma burst fire weapon. It's probably the number one thing I'm actually excited for, is the Sandbox and doing cool stuff, because as I said before, it's kind of my thing. Lastly, we have movement. A lot of positives around the balance between sprint and no sprint, and personally I think it's the number one thing 343 has nailed with this game. is that Sprint gives you a very, very minuscule speed boost, but it gives you the ability to slide, and with the advanced movement mechanics that I've shown, I'll play it on screen now too, slides down staircases to get heaps of momentum. So that's really awesome. Another big positive was the grapple shot was loved by all. And I agree, I love using the grapple, it was so satisfying to use. So that's going to do it, guys. That is all the feedback. It's really awesome to see 343 taking out advice on board and trying to make the best game possible. It still needs a lot of work, but I'm hopeful that by launch we'll have a really well-rounded, well-refined game. Players new and older like the ability to play the way they want to and create new experiences and new memories on Halo Infinite. So thank you all so much for watching. I've linked the blog post down in the description below if you want to go read it yourself. Let me know how you feel about Halo Infinite at the moment. Are you happy with how things are going? I personally am still very excited, but my expectations have been tempered a little bit. I know a lot of you guys really come to me for my honest opinions. I try to be as constructive as possible. At the end of the day, I want the game to be as good as possible because I care so much about the series. So while there's things I'm not happy with, there is equally as many things I am so damn excited for. A lot of little things that when added together become big issues, as I've said before. So hopefully as we get closer to launch and the game becomes more refined, the overall experience will improve and we'll have an amazing game to play for 10 plus years. So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video and I'll see you guys later. Bye guys.